Hello and welcome to the Self-Consciousness Podcast. I am your host, Jennifer Way, intuitive consultant. I have a real treat for you today. Karen Rontowski, everybody, woo! She is back, and she is here to talk about some fun, and dark stuff. Karen is a stand-up comic. She is a master tarot reader and teacher, and a podcaster, and just an all-around amazing woman. We talk a lot about how to deal with real life changes, like really, and finding acceptance through it all. And again, we get into plenty of ghost stories because you know it's going to be spooky. Turns out the East Coast is way haunted. We talk about religion. We're talking about the darkness and how we can accept that as well. All the fun, spooky stuff. Again, you can catch Karen at some upcoming shows at the Cambre house. I'm mispronouncing that, but the notes are down. Just go have a look at the show notes for the information. She's performing there with Ryan Singer on October 14th and 15th. This is in Illinois, so if you're in the neighborhood, check it out. Again, there's an Eventbrite link below. So also check out Karen's Patreon and her podcast, Paranormal Karen, everywhere you listen to your shows. Go ahead and check out her website, KarenRontowski.com, and on Instagram at Rontowski. So if you want to see us, please head over to Spotify or my YouTube channel to check out this episode visually. And don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to everything, everywhere, and all at once. So hope you enjoyed the conversation. I'm sure you will laugh. Again, I absolutely adore Karen, and you will too. So come on in and hang with us. Hello, Karen.
Hi, my love.
How are you? Welcome back to the Self-Consciousness Podcast. So happy that you're here. Oh wait, you're frozen. Oh no.
And right away, I froze. Right away.
Oh wait, now it's like, this is like this. So Mercury in retrograde has just kicked my ass. How has it been for you?
Well, I put all of 2022 in that same 2022 was just, or is just brutal. And even in the readings I'm doing for people, there's a white knuckling thing going on. And I just, I know, especially on my prediction podcast, and I agree, right through November is just, but it's just, one really good thing though is I've had to sort of pull my energy in. So even today I'm dealing with some kind of other people around here not getting along, not me, but their thing. And I have to now I just pull my energy in and I go, protect your little self. And then I'm not thinking about them. So that's been my lesson for this year.
Oh gosh. It's hard when you're close to, I mean, maybe everyone can understand this a little. It's like, I guess if you're listening or you're watching this podcast, you're familiar with what it takes to sort of try to ground yourself or recognize that everything's kind of in flux or fucked up and everything around you is like this big hurricane. I wanted to ask you because you moved, and anyone who doesn't know Karen's podcast, Paranormal Karen. Oh no, you froze again. Well,
Yes.
I don't even remember what my question was. Sorry, everybody. We're still having time. My last episode had technical difficulties. This one we have technical difficulties. I think we're still at the end of it's, even though Mercury has stationed direct on October 2nd, today, October 7th, there's still like it's like when you fart and there's still a trail, still fragrant.
Yes. Well, it's funny because you were sort of talking about me moving. So
Yes.
I moved.
Such a bad host.
And there's so many things I don't have control of. I'm actually relieved that you had technical problems on your last one because I always think it's me and it might not be me. I literally have Wi-Fi and cellular data on, but this whole year for me was about you just don't have any control. From the house I live in, to the cable, to the Wi-Fi, to the, what's next. It's so funny because where I live, through our parking lot the other night, I heard this huge scuttle, and I go out and look, and all I see are little white tails. And I was like, oh my God, those are the loudest rabbits I've ever heard. And then I was like, oh, they're deer. There's 3 deer running through our parking lot. And then sure enough, the next day, one gets hit. And I was like, like we have a over amount of deer, and I'm like, dear Utica, you've taken everything. Please do not take my car.
Oh God. That actually reminds me, fall is a big deers. I'm sorry, but deer on the side of the road season. I remember like I was driving my son to soccer games last year and there was just like, oh, there's another one. There's another one. It's
So
happening.
I'm a big animal rights person, vegan, the whole thing,
Yeah.
looking for a dog at a rescue, trying to do everything right. But I'm also a believer in sometimes that there's stuff, there's nature, in fact. But I could not believe up here in this place where if you listen to my Patreon and listen to my What About Utica, it's
Yeah.
cursed. I believe this place is cursed. There are dead animals on, I ride my bike to the gym. There are dead animals every 10 feet, raccoons, squirrels, skunks, deer. I've never seen, and there was a part of me that just has to go, you know what? That's how it works.
There's, someone mentioned this to me that there's very much an unsettling energy in nature on the planet right now with the
Mhm.
animals, with the I was just saying to you before we recorded that we have this overpopulation of spotted lanternflies, and that on the East Coast, I mean, it's you're probably going to get it up there in Utica, but it's like everyone's being urged to kill them, and I mean, I know that we're supposed to, but they're killing trees and yeah, it's weird, but I also feel like this is Earth balancing itself out because
Or did
we're
we put it, or did we set it off balance?
exactly because we're the invasive species. So it's like, why do I need to balance that out so that we can be like, look at my life, there's no icky bugs around me, like that's
Yeah.
it's
You know,
so
I think I did take one of them outside that was in my kitchen drawer, but I'm not sure. But they have big back legs or something. Yes. Okay.
they
So I have
look
seen.
almost like spiders, like the way they kind of crawl. I'll take a picture and put it in the video, everybody.
Yes, I have. Well, here's the story. One night I come out, and this is a big old house with 2 other tenants, one across, one above. And one
And
day
if
I
you
come
join
out.
Karen's Patreon, you can see a tour of it.
Yes. And one day I come out and I look in the kitchen, and there's a little mouse on the floor. And I was like, oh, okay, so I got a mouse. I think it was a mouse. I don't really know the difference between a mouse and a rat. Not concerned. So then I was like going to tell the landlord, and I was like, no, they're just going to chemicals and kill it. And so then I went on Amazon and got a humane um, trap. And
Yeah.
then my friend said, be careful where you leave it because it's an indoor mouse. So if you put it outdoors, it's going to die right. So basically, now I have a mouse.
Oh.
That's how that story ended. There was no removal. So,
Do you
um,
is this the
yeah.
sign of maybe a cat in your future?
Well, even a little dog, they smell each other in the same way. But I really did. I noticed it was must have been coming to the stove because it was leaving little poops on the stove, and it was leaving little
I've
poops in
had
my
mice
frying pan.
before. Yeah, I've had
Yes.
moose. I've had moose. I've had mice before. Yeah.
Right. And so I was somehow getting up, and it was and I think I ate some poops, and my sister was like, "Hey, you're 57. You've eaten a lot worse than mouse poops," because I think they were
Not
in when I was
vegan,
cooking.
Karen.
Yes, yes. So I still have the unopened, but I just started cleaning up better, and I think it's not there anymore, or at least it's not pooping in my kitchen anymore. I think it went elsewhere.
Yeah.
But it was like a whole, like, I don't want to kill a mouse. It's funny because, and there's also this thing about that I think, or maybe this is the only way I can deal with this. I'm not going to say what I saw, but I was looking at little dogs on TikTok, and someone put up a horrific video that should have been taken down. Of course, it wasn't. It was something she watched that traumatized her. And I was like, then why did you leave it up for the rest of us?
Oh.
And it set me for 2 days. And then I was like, I'm not getting a dog. I can't handle this. And it took me like a while. And then when I kind of started to channel and be like, okay, what is this? What do I do? I can't be like this. And there was sort of the couple of pieces of information, which was, and it's very funny because I always feel like, am I not a deep person? Is that why I can't get married? I'm not deep. And the thing was, and the first message was, that is how deep these emotions go. So you're not shallow. That's how deep. And then they said, as for the animal, they were like, remember, you can't lose energy for what you can't control. And they said, because at first I was like, you got to put the other dog down. Blah. And then I was like, I heard which they probably will, but I was like, that dog didn't know better. That dog thought something else. Now I'm getting too gross. Okay.
Yeah, no,
So
that's okay. We can fill in the blanks. Yeah.
yes, and I don't know what happened to the rest, but they told me a message and they showed the angels holding the dog. They didn't say it was dead or alive, but they were like, we got him. We got him.
Yeah.
And you don't even know where this is. What do you, and then they said, you have to seal your energy because when you're leaking energy to a situation you can't change. And the dog showed the owner something about being present, and now that dog showed you have to seal your energy. So that, and I know my friend Sonia, the animal communicator, has said this. She, not that somebody misinterpreted once that she was saying they don't feel pain. They do feel pain, but they are here on a purpose. And my friend had found a chihuahua that was either having seizures or something, and she rushed him to the vet and she felt so awful. And meanwhile, the little chihuahua is saying to my friend, the animal communicator, I can't believe I met this woman that loves me so much. This woman is here. So the dog is doing two things at once, and the dog was filling its purpose. So the little dog filled the purpose of whatever the owner's message was, and having me, seal my energy.
It's so important, the sealing of energy, and that's what I was going to ask you with all the changes in your life, because you just moved and you lost your dear partner,
Courage.
buddy, courage. How are you when you're thrown off? And I kind of want this for the listeners or anyone who's listening. When you're thrown off, how are you recentering, or are you noticing different ways of balancing than maybe perhaps like last year or the year before?
Yes. So, and just a 2 sentence synapse. I sort of had this great life in LA. I was going to move to Nashville. Had to take a turn up to Utica to take care of my parents, where Utica is a place I would never ever be. And I have a podcast coming out about this, which is like, I didn't just change where I live. I lost all my friends. I'm in a place where there isn't professional comedy. So I don't even have professional comedy friends. I don't even eat the same. Like the rest, they don't have a Trader Joe's our way. I'm not near. Like the table got turned over. I can't think. My dog died. I'm waiting for someone to take my car from me. You know what I mean? Like that's what I love my car. And I was like, you are the last thing, you and me, baby. I couldn't, thank God they didn't make me turn in the California plates. Cause I was like this, I was like, just give me New York plates. So it was huge. So I had an awful time the first 6 months, and 2022 is such a weird year that I keep getting like, this is great. Nope. Don't be happy. This, you know what I mean? It's a pull. And just a couple of weeks ago, I started to make that turn where, first of all, whenever you live someplace new, everything is new. Even if it's the best move you ever made in your life, it's off or a new apartment. I don't know where I put that pan. It's all mental energy. So I'm finally start to settle in. And there's a sadness and a goodness to this. So I've sort of lost my dreams. Like I loved Hollywood. You could meet anybody anytime. I went from talking jokes with Jay Leno in the green room to an open mic where there's no crowd. But so there was this sadness about, you always dreamed of doing this. You always dreamed of working with this person. And then I was like, okay, you can't go there. You can't go there because anything could happen, but you also don't want to waste your time living there. So just now it's almost in the last month, there's been a huge shift in my changes. And that video helped me again, because after a couple of days, I learned once it pops back in, go, no, 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 and take it out. And also, and this is not easy to do, especially if you get very depressed. There's going to be, I just am like, there'll be a certain level of depression here. It just is. It's hard. Both your parents have dementia, you know this. Um, and I just started now having the brain power to go, don't think about that. Think about this.
Mhm.
Okay, you're working on this joke. Don't think about these things that make you sad. Think about this joke. And also like when I ride my bike, I'm like, tell me everything that's beautiful about Utica. Well, the grass is nice. I like that car. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you have to be in a place to do that because for the first 6 months, it wasn't. It was like grabbing at, there was no changing it.
Yeah. So it's this better handle on this, and I hate this word, but more of a mindfulness in a way where
Yes.
you're more aware of where your energy is going, and energy meaning your thoughts are going. And I
Mhm.
feel like we talk about this kind of stuff all the time, but putting it into practice, it's like the embodiment of it is completely different when everything is like turbulent and crazy. And I think that's
Yeah.
a really, I feel like that's very helpful for anyone listening to this because I think it's
And
very
be
common this year.
Yes, and be very easy on yourself because I had to, it was stopping going all the way to those things are never going to happen. You ruined your career, blah, 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 to just coming into the middle, being okay. This is where we are now. This is where we are now. I've had a special that I've been waiting to tape, and it's more complicated than just a comedy special. And I just picked it up again, and I just was like, work on this every day. Work on, another thing I did. There's like 3 open mics that are not great, but I was like, you're going to go every time. And
Yeah.
getting out of the house, I was like, that's part of the schedule now. As bad as they are, or as good as they are. And it paid off because when I went back to my road work, it was just great. But there's that, okay, just where am I now? And what can I do now? And I also know, or I think, because there were 2 things, which is there is the karma of just you got to help your parents. Like there wasn't a question. I'm
Yeah.
not leaving my sister with this mess,
Yeah.
you know. Um, but the other thing is, um, maybe when I'm done here, I could do this, change my mindset, being happy in LA. Maybe you have to. Sometimes
Yeah.
maybe you got to go through it to change something.
Yeah, it's like your, I don't want to say coping, but it's like your management of the shitstorm is just much more grounded because you've
Mhm.
had such a, like uprooting that it's like, and now you've done enough to kind of experience all of that not fun stuff at all. And it's like, and you're still going on the road and doing shows and making people laugh. And
Yeah,
yeah,
everything. I'm so lucky to have comedy and tarot both kind of to have those two jobs, no bosses, move where you want, that's great.
yeah, yeah. Do you have any shows? Are you on the road this year, the rest of the year? Now we're in October.
I didn't book December
Oh yeah, we
or
talked about that.
November out because I'm not close to airports. And last year in March, they were canceling flights. So I'm trying to stay close. I as on this coming weekend, not this one, the next one, I'm at the Cambre house doing a haunted event with Ryan Singer.
Oh,
And
that's
then
awesome.
yes, I think it's 20th, 21st or 21st, 22nd. You'll know it's Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
Ann Arbor, Michigan, one of my favorite clubs. And then my favorite is Halloween week. I'm always at Zanies doing my psychic stand-up show.
Oh
So
yeah.
Zanies Chicago and Zanies Rosemont, both of them I'll be doing shows. And it's kind of nice because I think the psychic stand-up show found a home here in Utica, which was like, I was always like, if I could have that once every month or once every 3 months, we're discussing. But if I could have that,
That's
then
right.
yeah, that sustains what I want.
That's ugh, that makes me so happy. I was up all night and I was up at like 1 a.m. thinking about how can I bring psychic stand up to Jersey City? And I
Yes.
was literally like trying to figure it out.
Oh,
Never,
I
don't
hope
know
so.
how to do that at all, but
It's doing well. It's so funny because like the other day, and I have 2 dry bar specials out that aren't psychic stand up, but they're wonderful because they get like the other day I got a email from someone and they go, if you're ever coming to Rochester, I'm going to the show. And I was like, I am 4 hours from Rochester. I'm trying to break into that club. If you can ask for me when you go in, that'd be great, you know? So
that's
yeah, clubs are very tough to break into. And I had the West Coast wired. So now it's just doing the work out here on the East Coast. So
yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. So what about so is this all helping with like new material and stuff?
yes, it kind of is. Um, I think I hope I just got into the sync of things here. It was, even yesterday, there's a heavy, here's the thing, and we can get a little paranormally here.
Yeah. Let's see.
So and I don't know if anyone that we have crossover that listens to my podcast,
Yeah.
but Utica, I have a whole separate podcast called What's Going On in Utica, because this is the most haunted area. And sometimes I think this house that I did one episode on how the mob was in Utica, not like every place has the mob. No, they used to retire here. And when I read the list of in the 70s and 80s, the mob violence, grenades, bombs, like like not like, oh, a guy got shot, they didn't find him. Like AK-47s at bar. Like this is just a crazy,
God.
crazy place. And I feel like this house that I am, it has to be over 100 years old. The lady that bought it is 71 and she's from Sicily. But I feel like the walls have been like painted with sadness. So I'm doing all this, because sometimes I just am like, ugh. Or I did an episode of when I first moved here, I wanted to hurt myself. And I'm not saying, but it could have been some, I'm picking up the residual. And once I kind of got a grasp on that, it was better. But sometimes, it's going to be a dark winter and I'm okay with that. So maybe it's going to be material, but right now, like today was
Oh my
my day.
God.
You know, I actually wrote a funny, I don't know if it's a sketch about why I don't have a boyfriend. And I was like, because if in the middle of the night I had a man here and he got up and I heard him screamed, this would be the conversation. He'd be like, oh my God, you can't believe what I've seen. And I was like, was it the hooded thing that goes 2 inches off the ground? And he's like, no. And then I'm like, was it the 3 Native American women? He's like, no. And then I'm like, was it that thing with red eyes? And he's like, what? And I'm like, oh my God, it must be something new, right?
I have to watch the What's Happening in Utica show because like you guys need to watch this. There was, or were you saying, someone was saying this recently, where there was a huge migration of spiritualists or just very specific sects of Christianity, SECTS, of, and I don't know any, I'm like, I know there's like Episcopalian and Protestant, I mean, I Lutheran, I don't know any of those things, but that there were so many pockets of like super religious people like in and around the upstate New York area. Are you?
Yes.
Ooh.
Well, the spiritualist movement kind of started here, or you could say regenerated here, because of the story of the Fox sisters, which were 2 sisters that lived in a house, and they started they were very young when this started, and they heard a knock on the wall, and then they were like, how old are you? And then there was like 13 knocks, and then there was, well, are you dead? And then there was 1 knock, like they really started communicating. And then all these people kind of flocked to here. That's actually a whole interesting story. I think I did that at the beginning of the podcast. Some of these I'm going to put out on my regular podcast. And I believe the one about the mob is in November. There's one I'm doing about Loab. I don't know if it's Loeb or Loab, but that one is just me. And I put up a teaser of the What's Going On in Utica. But that started here. Who's the Mormon? John, who started the Mormon?
I know who you're talking about, but I don't know his name.
John
Something guy.
Wesley? John Wesley? Whoever it was.
Yeah.
Started here. You're welcome, everyone.
That's right. And the story, Joseph Smith.
Not even close. Not even close.
No, it's okay.
Not even close.
I'm really glad that it wasn't close. I'm glad that you didn't.
But I remember reading that and writing it, and as I was writing it, I heard the land go, "You're welcome," like sarcasm, like that's who he gave you. And it's very interesting because I have another podcast coming up where there's this guy that talks about the magic of this particular river and the water that starts in New York and these areas that are so weird and haunted and makes its way down to Pennsylvania. And he just talks about that body of water and how it what went on. Like it's almost like that it's a magical kind of thing. But there were several that started out here. So yeah. And I'm actually getting ready to talk to a historian just about Utica because it goes we ran the Indians off. We had Civil War stuff. We had Revolutionary War stuff. We had,
Yeah.
mob. We have just so many things happened here.
Yeah.
The Underground Railroad, like
Oh yeah. I was wondering about I mean like proximity to Canada even
yes,
like
I just
French and Indian wars or like all of that kind of because that's a crazy history up there as well.
well, it's funny. The Native Americans kind of got screwed twice because first they went and fought with the French
Yeah,
against us
that's right.
and they lost. And then they fought with the British against us. And like my friends have the ghost stories from around here are not even remotely close to, I hear ghost stories. Oh my God. They're
Yeah.
crazy out here. Crazy the stories are.
There's some in New Jersey as well. We've got some spooky woods with like old.
Devil.
Yeah, exactly. There's like a weird New Jersey or some kind of magazine and
Yeah.
yeah, and like sacrifices and people finding weird dolls and things like that and
There's an enormous, yeah, the East Coast is by far, three times as haunted as the West Coast. The West Coast has a great own history
yeah.
of hauntings and stuff, but this place is very different. And I used to play Atlantic City, and I truly believe that again, there is an area of Atlantic City. There's one side that seems way better than the other side. The side with the boardwalk is like I have the things that happened in that area, in that club that were just crazy. And we used to stay in the building. If anybody saw Boardwalk Empire,
I
the
used to watch
story
that. I
of,
was just gonna say that. I was like, that's all I know about it. Yeah.
right. And Nucky
It's like,
Thompson, the building that he was in, we were staying in that building. And one of the guys wasn't supposed to, but he took me downstairs to the basement where they used to have it was called the merry-go-round bar, and it was where Al Capone, planned the St. Valentine's Day massacre, all this stuff in that very dark building. That building had the same feeling that I kind of get here, where it's just like, sometimes before I go to bed, I'm like, all right, everyone out.
yeah.
That's out.
I know.
I'm not.
I all of my good friends do that. It's like just everyone's a psychic, and it's
Yes.
like we all have to do that. Like everybody out. The only I must have talked about it on the podcast before, but the only experience I've had here, and I know in Jersey City where I am, it's used to be the sort of like playground for the rich people in Manhattan. So they would just cross the river, and it's also where Hamilton was killed, like up a little bit further
Mm.
north in New Jersey, across the river. That's where like everything bad happened here, and and they're like, oh
Yes.
yeah, let's build factories and pollute it as well. But in the neighborhood that I'm in, the streets are very long and there's some really old like Victorian type houses. But I read this after this happened. There were a lot of like Danish and or Dutch, I should say Dutch actually, Dutch and also Danish. I could be completely wrong. Sorry, everybody. I'm not a historian. What the hell? Um, they all the streets are named that way, and there's a lot of kind of they would. I remember seeing an old map of how they separated up all the streets and how they divided up all the plots and the land, and I have a little balcony here, and I have these little sort of plant boxes that are like hanging over. And I remember being out there, and this was like a year or two ago, and I'm just kind of like talking out into the darkness, and I'm like, I just want to talk to somebody. Don't do that, you guys. Don't do that.
No, do
And
not extend the welcome to everyone.
extend the welcome. And then so And then I kind of went back to my room and I started writing and I was channeling and I started getting like very specific messages. I'm like, okay, who is this? I know that this is someone coming in. And I was like, show me what you look like. And I could see it really kind of looked like he almost looked like Oscar Wilde in a way, but he had very
Mm.
dark, it was almost like a Gabriel Byrne version of Oscar Wilde. He had very dark hair and it was like split in the middle. And he was very
Oh.
much like 1700s, is what it felt, or 1600s. But I noticed there was like, it was almost like he had, and I have seen farmers as well. I've seen people in like overalls. I've also seen like older Italian women from like the 50s in spirit when I first moved here because I was like, all right, who's here? What space am I on? But this particular person kept speaking, and I was like, all right. And I was still a little skeptical, and I was like, I want something concrete. Like, give me your name, just give me letters or something. I was like, I want to really get to the bottom of this. So he started giving me letters, and I wrote out I was writing it out, and then and I was like, what the hell is this word? And I did a search, and it's the word for window box in like Danish.
Oh.
And I was like, uh-oh. And it was kind of like he hangs out back there. And when I was
Oh.
out there by the window boxes being like, hey, everybody who wants to come, he was like, hey, I'm here.
Oh.
And that really freaked me out because I don't get that kind of like specifics. But then I was like, yeah, no, I'm sorry. You gotta, because he was like, I like that you're taking care of your backyard. I like that you're growing things and you're tidying it up, because that's kind of, but it's like, if you're still around, I'm not supposed to be talking to you. I don't want to talk to you.
It's that, in my Patreon, we're all going to do like a group, try and learn meditation together, or mediumship together. Because I think like most psychic people have had mediumship experiences. I know a lot of mediums like to go, mediums are all psychic, but psychics are not medium. And I'm like, I hate that.
Doesn't
Like, if
matter. Yeah.
it gets under my skin,
Yeah.
and someone just did it on my podcast, and you hear complete silence. I go, so people should give up, right? And because it just makes me crazy, because it's like going, I'm so much better than you are.
There's a
Or
level that you have to reach before you can use that word. It's like, no.
yes, there was,
Yeah.
but anyways, but I don't want to be rude to anyone on my podcast. And my rule is you can say whatever you want on my podcast. So, I just, whatever. Anyways, but I love that tool of asking for letters. I have gotten names when I asked about guides that you can, like, weird names that weren't names like Murray. You can kind of, then you look them up, and it's interesting because sometimes they are like a Greek goddess that nobody knew about, or.
Right. And it's something that you haven't seen. I mean, I guess it's always possible that you saw it subconsciously and it went there, but it still means that it was somehow plucked from that memory,
Hmm.
or not, or just planted there. I love getting
Well,
weird words and stuff. I'm like, what?
yeah, that was when I was a little
Yeah.
kid. I would always walk around saying agabus, or I would say busagasa bus. I would say it over and over and over. And then one day I was like, what was that? And then I looked up the patron saint, Catholic patron saint of psychics and mediums, and his name is Agabus. So I don't know if I was like a little
Oh
kid
my
trying to,
God.
right? Like I was trying to
That's
say that name.
I love that. I love that. Holy
But
crap.
even you gotta love that the Catholics made a saint for psychics and mediums, and then tell us we shouldn't be doing it.
I wonder, like, when was the moment that it all, because obviously there was an established acceptance of it at some point, otherwise there wouldn't have been a patron saint for it.
I- you
I
know,
wonder.
I I'm so with you on that. I think there's a lot of good in the Bible, but the stuff that has been changed, and the anti-female stuff, and it makes me crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. I was this is so mean. I was like, I'm trying not to hate Christianity, but like it's hard. Like I grew up a little Jewish kid. I was called a dirty Jew. I
uh,
definitely experienced stuff, and I was very much like, I'm not singing any Christmas carols during the Christmas
I get
concert. And
it.
I would like sit there like this, like since I was little, because I was just mad that Santa didn't come to my house. That's really the bottom
Mhm.
line. But
I don't blame you.
I think I was listening to one of your podcast episodes, and it was with the woman who's the astrologist. She was amazing.
Lori Rivers.
Yes. Yes. And she was talking about how, or I mean, I think this is where I heard it. I listen to Paranormal Cameron when I'm walking around a football field pretty much every week. So it's my favorite. And so she was basically saying that people are going to be moving closer to religion, like organized religion. And it makes sense, especially maybe people who left religion, and now that things are so insane, I'm guessing that's kind of where that comes from, that people are going to be moving back to their roots in a way. And I don't know, there's just been a couple of times that I get really, and I'm like, there's no reason, everybody, like, if you're Christian, it's not that I hate you, I just don't like it in my face, and anyway,
Well,
it's
there's
like so
probably
dominating that I get it.
there's probably a huge level of Christians that are like, yes, we're not with those people. Like
Yeah.
that's the hard part. Yeah, but I agree. And the loud ones are what make the news, or the ones that hate the gays make the news. Like, you know
Right.
what I mean?
And there's so many Christian, I have Christian friends who are very, very much, yeah, like exactly like you said. But I went to a coffee shop in downtown Jersey City, and it was like cute, and I was like, oh, this is nice, everyone seems no. And then I heard this like weird indie rock playing, and then all of a sudden the words were like, he is my savior, and I was like, oh no. And I just got really angry, and as I was leaving, they're like, have a good day, I'm like, under his eye. I was like,
Well, you know what?
blessed
Yeah.
be. I was really
Yes.
mad.
Yes. Well, somebody said that the other day. They said, because out here, nobody's, if you say that in a business out here, like if somebody said, have a blessed day, if you say that in LA, fireworks, you know what I mean? And it was a great, I didn't, I'm not going to complain. That seems pretty, yeah, let's all
Yeah.
have a blessed day. That sounds pretty good to
It
me.
sounds nice, right?
It didn't sound Christian or
Yeah.
non-Christian or whatever, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But yeah, it's a weird, well, I do think people might, but what I'm hoping, see, this is what worries me. I don't feel like people are waking up, or I certainly don't feel like they're waking up fast enough.
I
And I am
agree.
worried about our country turning into like a third world, whatever. And I've said this before. That's why I feel like 2022, everybody's stuff is on hold because the collective can't decide which way it's going. And the collective keeps changing, which means that our patterns keep changing. But I feel like if they do go back, I think they're going to take a little control of it. Like, um, you're not going to have a Catholic, we hate gays. The old, it's a sinner, love the sin,
Yeah.
however they justify it.
Yeah.
No one's going to put up with that.
Yeah.
I would be amazed if anyone is. That church is going to die, and the type that are more Unitarian, like we really accept everyone,
Yeah.
those will probably thrive, because there's a certain place where no one wants to go back. And no, you know what I mean? People don't want to hate, and unfortunately we do, because we get frustrated or we have control issues or whatever. But I will tell you, I mean, I think like the actual, I always said, somebody once asked me, do Jewish people believe in Jesus? And I said, I think they do. They believe he was a man, kind of like Tom Hanks. Like everybody liked him, but we're not sure why you're asking him his opinion, right? Like he's kind of like that. Nobody who doesn't like Tom Hanks,
It's
right?
like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like lucky guy, right place, right time, kind of a thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and I think the real words of Jesus, like if you just pull the words of Jesus out of the Bible, on board, everybody's on board. All religions would be like, yeah, I agree with that, agree with that, agree with that. Because he wasn't about rules and stuff like that. And then when you really get into like the meaning of, in the Bible, it's the meek shall, no, it's about the
Oh
poor.
yeah.
It's not the meek shall inherit the earth, but it's something about being poor, rich man through an eye. I can't remember,
Yeah.
but the reference was not poor as in not having money. The reference means not attached to things, being unattached. The phrase was poor in spirit, but it was like not being attached to rules, or like we're all trying to do, not be codependent, not be attached. So it actually had some yoga meanings to it. But I was like, I don't know. And then I saw this one lady, and she reads angels, and she was very credible, and she was on a show on Gaia I was watching. And this changed my mind about everything. And then I sort of, like, I feel like now I have a communication with Jesus, or I try. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's him. I think he and I are having some.
Yeah.
And she said how when she's very young, Jesus came to her and said, "Hey, don't worry about the cross and the crown. That didn't happen." He said that was all about the death of the ego. And like, if you really look at it, it's not, he's like, nobody, you know, that story's not real. But then she also said, and I was like, that I get that a little bit. He said, I was a rabbi and Mary Magdalene was my wife. That's what he was saying to her. But also, and this is my favorite, she goes, "Oh, and Jesus always travels with Buddha because he says Buddha is so funny." And then
That
I was like,
sounds like
what?
Jesus.
Yeah,
Sorry,
you
everybody,
talk
but
to that
that
guy.
sounds like him. I
Can you just
mean,
can you just see Jesus at like Buddha making faces or something, and Jesus is like dying?
I can't like it's just I love people who are so like fundamentalist and like, really trying to convert people like that's their job. And then when they experience Jesus, they'll be like, who's the fat Asian guy that's with you?
Yeah.
Like what? Stop Asian hate, everybody. Jeez. No, but like it's I remember I've got a couple of books by Tom Kenyon. He channels Mary Magdalene. And
Mm.
there's some amazing things that's channeled out that she has said and that she's kind of come forth. And she, I always like whenever I talk to like super religious Christian people, I'm like, hey, I love Jesus, but I love his wife even more. Gives them
Yes.
like a little, well,
Yes,
like a
because
little,
they very few of them actually know, or even the book
yeah,
of Ruth. Ruth was a judge. Nobody's
yeah,
telling you that. I had there was this lady that was on TikTok when I was first on there, and she was doing kind of historically what really would be. And she'd said what Jesus would look like. And she said he would have a very short beard because that was his sect, and he would have very short hair, and he would be wearing this and this and this. And then she sort of showed a match of what they digitally would think Jesus would look like. And then
yeah.
she did Mary Magdalene, and she was like, her hands would be red from henna. She would have all kinds of jewelry, and she would wear this headdress.
Yeah.
And it was, and this artist, a bunch of artists drew what she said, and I bought both pictures because they were so, especially like, and I put it online, and I said, because I Mary Magdalene, the picture, that would be me with the red hands. And I don't have any children now because I cut off all my hair.
I've
But
got my
like,
Berber earrings, so it's perfect.
yes,
Yeah.
I just got out of the gym, so I have an excuse.
I know.
But I love that female jingly,
Yeah.
and the first comment was, she looked like a prostitute. And I was like, you, first of all, you don't know anything about that time. But second of all, how could you take all that beauty and be like, label it?
It's so
And it
typical.
was a woman.
So
It was a
typical.
woman, not a
Oh,
man.
so typical. Fucking foot
I
soldiers
know.
of the patriarchy. You know, there's especially in a lot of when I talk to a lot of people, we talk about like Egyptian things. Mary Magdalene was initiated into the rites of Isis, literally trained in the temples of Isis in
Mm,
Egypt. And so did Jesus's mother. So
mm,
that Mary, that name, it's all intertwined with the rites of Isis and the practices that were extremely difficult. And these were practices that, again, this is through psychic people and through mystery schools that have been passed down. Um, these were exercises and practices that through those temples enabled women to draw down cosmic energy, and at their height of the power of the practice, like highest priestess could actually bring that energy down and impregnate themselves with the cosmic
mm.
energy. So just a little fun Egyptian Mary Jesus stuff. But yeah, I had a moment with Jesus once, and I was like, I really want to know what you look like. I really want to know what you look like. Can you please just send it right here? And then I saw one of those, I just saw one of those images of like the totally white, blue-eyed Jesus. It's almost like sparkly and like soft. And I was like, but almost of like a little blonde tint to his hair. And I was like, no, that's
That's
wrong. I know this
Utah Jesus. That's
that's
Utah Jesus.
exactly, it's totally Utah Jesus. And he said, it's not wrong because it's your association with me. So just go with that. And I was like, okay. I was like, got it. So it was
I,
more like a lesson for me that it doesn't matter what he really looked like. That
yeah.
if even if I see him that way, um, it connects me to an essence of him that works for me because that's my history or whatever I
And
learned about
and
him.
I do get, because I feel like every time I go to Utah, Jesus gets blonder and lighter skin, which, but and I feel bad because I do agree. If he was from that area, he was either black or he was Middle
Yep.
Eastern, so he
Oh
was
yeah.
very dark skinned. And I feel kind of feel like too, that's a little way that black people are getting. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
let's take Jesus away from him too.
I mean, come on. And I'll even say like let's take Egyptian and like Nubian away from them. I mean, the Nubian Empire fucking, I mean, there's not enough said about it, but that's some serious
Yeah,
power, serious.
I
Yeah.
actually think not right away, but I think white people are on the way out.
I do too.
And I think that's fine,
I think it's
because
fine
I
too.
also, between either whatever you want to say, races mixing or
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I think we're going to be the minority pretty fast.
I know.
And
Hi.
that would
I'm
be
like, can
bad.
I dilute this as much as possible? Dilute. What a horrible, like Nazi word. Jesus. Can I
I
dilute
know.
the
Well, there's
But of
a,
course,
there,
even though my daughter is Asian, she's very pale. I'm like, I'm sorry, you guys. You still get sunburned. I tried.
I know. Well, it could be the sun that kills us. And then other people get, okay, so I'm going to bring up make a huge leap.
I love it.
But two things, but I think it was National Geographic did a digital thing of what the person of the future was going to look like. And it was dark skin,
Yeah.
not black, but it was very dark. The person was so beautiful. The
Yeah.
person was so, and the eye color was like a not a blue or a green, but it was like it was just so beautiful,
Like
the
a
picture.
hazel. I know.
But this is a weird, so I'm starting a new conspiracy.
Yay. You heard it here first, everybody.
Okay, so now all of a sudden we're finding out most of the sunblocks we have been using cause cancer, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now you're only supposed to use a mineral one. All the other ones, oh my God, it was terrible. Why did we give you those? We don't know. Also, there's another movement talking about we should not be afraid to be in the sun. And now, COVID, people getting COVID because they have not enough vitamin D.
It's so confusing.
Yeah, and I don't think they planned it that way, but I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, so they told us we have to get vitamin D, or don't worry, you got to get your sunblock. Now they're wrecking the food. Like, I really think they're trying to
Yeah.
kill people. Or
And how sunblock in like you can't wear sunblock when you go to Hawaii and go into the oceans because it's like killing all of the
oh,
like because of it's like so many like freaking pasty people, myself. I mean, I've never done it, but there's like a rule now, I think in Hawaii. I'm totally botching this, that people are not supposed to be wearing, you can't go into
I
the
believe.
ocean anymore with that much sunblock because it's like it's actually affecting the ocean. Oh, we're so fucked. I mean, just kidding. Yay. We love love and light. I saw your I saw you posted a card of the day on your Patreon. And I just want to bring this in because just before we wrap up, it was, and I don't remember the deck, but it had a picture of an illustration of a person with that sort of open heart, and you were talking a little bit about there was that sense of loneliness. And do you mind sharing? I know it's saved for your Patreon viewers, but do you mind sharing
No,
kind of what that sort of brought to you?
I
The
will say this
method.
though.
or what you feel comfortable with, what you feel comfortable.
Oh, I will tell you anything. In fact, if I could find the
Oh, wait.
thing, you could play it. But this
I'll
is,
put it.
I do them about a month in advance.
Oh, okay.
So I maybe don't remember.
No, but I feel like it's perfect timing in a way. Like I love that you do everything so early in advance. I do everything last minute at this point.
No,
But
it's October. I'm trying to finish off everything for December so I can breathe.
So yeah. No, I love it. I love it. It was
And I know the deck you're talking about. The deck is the
Angelarium.
Angelariums, and he is amazing. His pictures are amazing,
Yes. And just for
they're
the
in
people who are watching, I don't know if you can see that. Oh, you can see my
a
yeah, little
if
bit.
you could,
I'll
yeah,
put it on the
his
I'm gonna edit
artwork,
it in right now. But that
absolutely.
heart, it reminded me of sort of that space. In the Egyptian tradition, the chakras are called shenkas, and they look quite different. But the heart chakra or shenka is actually almost like an empty space. So there's like a tube that kind of, and how it's represented visually is sort of like empty space, but that tube that just kind of comes in through your chest and out through your back, almost like at an angle. So that's kind of what it reminded me of. And you said what it sort of struck you as, when you feeling that emptiness and that loneliness, you were saying, I just kind of say to myself, I'm just going to fill this with light. I'm going to fill everything with light. And I was like, this is so perfect today. It really is.
Well,
Because I think we have to, and we've talked about this before. It's like there is a real amount of integration with the dark that we really have to accept, you know?
yes,
And that's where comedy comes in. But still, it's like we really have to accept both.
yes, and I also feel like most of our dark is man-made concepts, like
Absolutely.
thing, like we did it to us. And yeah, there the two that's funny that you mentioned this, because what people don't realize in paranormal investigation, if you feel something scratching or going on here, that's something trying to get in. That's an entrance point for attachments or spirits or stuff. And we forget. Someone asked me, why is it right there? And it's because the chakras, we forget they go straight through.
We'll see
But
through.
also,
That's right.
yes. And another thing that people don't ever talk about is, especially when we let go of something, there is a vacuum. So you get to decide what you're vacuuming into that hole or that loneliness, or what are you going to put in there so that it doesn't pull in more of the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Side note, I definitely felt something spreading my hair apart and going back into the back of
Mhm.
my head. I was like, ah!
Yes, that, and also for some reason, human ghosts love hair. They're always touching your hair. They're always,
Yeah. My guides will tingle my head right here when I have to go do something. It's weird. It's weird. I'm like, all right, fine. Got it. Okay.
I
Anyway.
love it.
Ugh, creepy. Don't touch me. Anyway, Karen, thank you so much for being here. I love you. I say that to everybody because it's true. I truly love you. Your
I
readings are
adore you.
amazing. I just I really urge everyone listening to, obviously before November and December, but really uh just book Karen for a reading. Her readings are just amazing. They're so deep and true, and she's going to give you perspectives that you really just had no idea.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, just amazing. So we can find you at
You can find me at KarenRontowski.com or paranormalkaren.com. And I own both of those. And then everywhere else is on there. If you put in Rontowski, there's no other Rontowskis, especially that are comedians. And if there are any, I've squeezed them out.
yes, that's
Um,
right.
yes. And I have the podcast Paranormal Karen, which your episode is coming up. And
Yay.
the Patreon is Patreon /Rontowski. All things tarot. There's another section that is paranormal podcast, extra podcasts from the other one. So
Thank
yeah,
you so much, and I'll have
thank you,
all that
my dear.
information in the show notes, everybody. So Thank you.
Awesome. And I adore you, my friend. I can't wait. I've been talking about you outside your podcast so much and in the Patreon. So listen for your name.
Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm so excited. I'm a sucker. I've got to have Leo. Oh no, I have my
Um,
Mars is in Leo.
you did
I don't
such a
even know what that
great
means.
reading for me. You literally turned things around for me. And I was like, and some of it was like, I don't even know how to say it, but it was like unsaid or whatever it was. When we were done, I was like on cloud nine.
Oh, that makes me so happy.
You were part of that turn.
Oh.
That I feel like I turned the corner. You were kind of one of the pinnacles in that. You kind of, it was weird because you kept being like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I was like, oh my God, you flipped the whole thing. It was great.
Oh my God.
So thank
Makes
you.
me so happy. And we're going to continue to do that.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much. Oh my God.
Anytime, my friend.